there was a movie that this is just like I'm just thinking of this movie now while we're talking. I cannot remember. It may have been Flatliners. I think this was like in the 80s.
You have to describe it. I can't help you.
It's an older movie, but they're. God, if I can barely remember.
What happens?
The THC-infused neurons in my brain are reaching really hard trying to remember this one. But
if you can tell me who's in it, what happens?
I cannot remember who's in it. But what happens is essentially like there's these, people are like recording their own memories.
Okay.
And there's like some sort of like device you put on your head. I think it might almost be like VR.
Okay.
But I think it connects to the brain too, so you feel the feelings and like, I mean, I guess kind of like Neuralink, but people are like paying like hot money to get like people's experiences. Like people will like record their experience and they'll go rob a bank. And like the adrenaline rush that they're getting from like doing this, and people are paying money to like be able to experience what that's like.
Interesting. But I don't think that's Flatliners.
I can't remember what the name of the movie is, but then like they. I think I could totally be getting this wrong. Fact check me on this shit. But I think that there becomes like a fad where people like want to experience death and the dying process. And
this totally sounds so familiar.
I can't remember where the rest of the movie goes from there.
I'm pretty sure.
It's like a horror movie or something like that. I can't remember exactly where it goes, but that's what this kind of reminds me of, is like being able to pass on those those thoughts. And I mean, we can get to memories now, I guess. If we want to, we can move on to that subject of what Neuralink is going to be able to do.
That would be cool. As far as learning goes, like that would be incredible. If you were able to experience someone else's memory or like how to do something through Neuralink, then because I'm not sure how learning completely happens, how it gets encoded. But if you were able to experience essentially the same experience as someone else, wouldn't that encode the learning? So wouldn't that essentially make it possible, like how in the Matrix Neo gets loaded in all that information? Like you'd be able to do that. Like you could be like, all right, well, Gordon Ramsay's selling his fucking neurons on how to make excellent food. Let me do that. Everyone can do that,
Exactly, man. I mean, okay, so imagine somebody like Warren Buffett, okay?
Yes.
Decides to hook his brain up, and he uploads, they have him, I don't know, this is just like my imagination, like trying to think of how this would happen. They put a Neuralink in him, and he sits there for 8 hours, and he goes through his memories and like everything of how he, has learned to, project what the stock market is going to do, how he can, kind of see ahead of the curve.
He probably wouldn't even need to put in effort. He probably would just need to sit there and wait for the machine to extract that information.
Probably at that point. But they extract that information. So now you have the Warren Buffett skill set. Okay, you have the application, the Warren Buffett.
Yeah.
How many people do you think would be lining up?
Oh, hundreds of thousands
to pay for that shit.
Hundreds of thousands, Now,
I mean, you think of that. I mean, people definitely want that skill set. How many people do you think are going to want Joe Biden's?
Right. Probably no one.
Dude. I had to say it.
No, but that's an interesting thing. Is like if.
Or Elon,
because that's the other thing.
Musk, for example.
That'd be incredible. But think about what would that do economically to our world? How do we interact with each other when that happens? If there's so you just look at your app store or whatever, and you look at the most popular apps and how many downloads there are. There's 1.1 million downloads. There's gonna be 1.5 million people downloading this stuff once it's affordable to have, right? And they're gonna have this application. So what is that gonna do? It's gonna even out the playing field. So not only is everyone going to be behaving just like Warren Buffett when they're paying for stocks, but the profitability will go way down. So is it really going to be worth it if it's split between 1.5 million people?
So here's the thing. Like, say people download a million people download the Warren Buffett app, right? And they are now looking at the stock market through, the cognitive perception of Warren Buffett. And I think that there would definitely be a clash, because some of those individuals are going to react first, right? And they're going to start pushing the market in one direction. And then, I would make the assumption, like most people, that over time, like, your ideas change, or like when you see something, I mean, an action has happened.
Okay.
You have half the population starts moving in this direction, and then you have the other half of the Warren Buffetts who are looking at it like, all right, well, these, this stock in,
So okay,
let's say like rubber is going up.
Let me make sure I'm understanding this properly. The way that you're perceiving the Warren Buffett application is that they'll be able to intake all that information, but not experientially as Warren Buffett. They will be able to take the same information but make their own independent choices.
Yes.
Okay.
So I mean, you would have some of the Warren Buffett
take
applicants. I guess we'll just call them applicants for now. People who are using the Warren Buffett app, or his mindset, effectively.
Right.
And they start making market moves. Right.
Right.
The other Warren Buffetts are going to look at those market moves, and based off of those market moves, they will make their own. And
but the thing is like if they have Warren Buffett's experience, they would all be making the same decision at the same time. They would have the same inclinations. They would be thinking about what move they're going to be making next, because based off of the way that Warren Buffett thinks.
I would say that you'd be correct if everybody was acting at the same time. So,
but the thing is like, would they be consciously acting at the same time? If you download Warren Buffett's consciousness, or not consciousness, but his mindset, or the way that he thinks about stocks. The way that he thinks about stocks has everything to do with how he interacts with space and time. It's when he's thinking about it at a certain time, he's going to put money at a certain place at a certain time, and that's what makes him profitable. It's about the right timing. It's about paying the right amount of money for the right stocks at the right time. So what would prevent everyone who downloaded the Warren Buffett app to not make the same decisions the same way?
That might be the case. I don't think that everybody who would have that would unanimously go in the same direction at all times.
Okay.
I think depending on where their focus is, they would make separate decisions. So you have these Warren Buffetts making these choices. And now that the market has changed because of the choices that this half of the Warren Buffett app population has made, they would see that as an opportunity to grab these other choices.
That's true. I mean, I guess it would suppose on the nature of consciousness too, because like if the problem is like if there's a self,
into a layering issue, right?
Yeah, because like the thing is if there's a self, then yeah, what you're saying could happen. But if we find out that consciousness is actually one thing that we're all a part of, that we're experiencing differently, and this Neuralink allows us to align with each other conceptually and experientially, then we all make the same decisions, and we are, I don't know, it turns into sort of a weird dystopic kind of situation.
I don't think that would happen. So I mean, the reason why is because like I think of Photoshop, I guess. So you have, a ton of graphic designers and photographers, and they all have the idea of Photoshop and what to do in it. There's a certain skill set that every, buddy at the base level has, but they choose to use those things in different ways.
Right. So
everyone's running off the Photoshop app, but they're using the program in a totally different way than the other guy.
Got it.
So I think that people would have...
So it's more of a stylistic choice that people would have.
Yeah, I think so. I think that they would, you have the ability to use the ideas of Warren Buffett and you're able to see it.
So like you'd be able to like adjust, like this is how much influence I want from this application or something like that.
Yeah, possibly. I mean, I think we're getting a little like convoluted at this point with it.
Okay.
But it's... I think that, based on the self, like people will have their own, and their innate like self-consciousness, and then they will basically be able to add like layers of knowledge or skill sets to that.
Okay.
They still have their own, idiosyncratic ways that they work about doing things.
Okay.
But they also have the knowledge of like what this person would do. Like you don't always follow what that person would do, even if they're, a great like role model to you, but right. I think that kind of might be what it's like.
Got it.
That's just kind of my idea of it. I don't know.
That'd be interesting.
Yeah. I don't know. It'd be.
I would love me some Warren Buffett thoughts.
Yeah, that would be
definitely help.
Yeah. Yeah, you're telling me, man. I'm just like, people would pay a lot of money for it. It's like, even if if it drove you broke, you'd be able to make the money back.
You would.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
You'd have the insight to be able to do it.
I'm just thinking about the economic impacts. Like, it would be a true, huge paradigm shift. Like, the way that we live our day-to-day lives.